6 years ago, the Prime Minister's mansion was a stage for utter humiliation. "You shameless harlot," the words, sharp as daggers, were hurled by her fiancé, his handsome face twisted in a mask of disgust. Beside him, a stepsister, Rua, clung to his arm, eyes shimmering with faux pity. "How could you bring such disgrace upon our families?" Nain Wei, or rather, the soul that had once inhabited this frail body, knelt on the cold stone floor, her world splintering. The accusatory shouts of the crowd, the venom in her family's eyes, it was a perfectly orchestrated nightmare. Her heart, already fractured by betrayal, finally shattered. Later, in the biting chill of the wilderness, the nightmare turned bloody. Thugs, their faces masked by shadows and malice, descended upon her. A sharp, searing pain tore through her abdomen as a poisoned blade plunged deep. As her life ebbed away, another consciousness, fierce, modern, and utterly bewildered, slammed into the dying vessel. Dr. Nain Wei, a brilliant surgeon from the 21st century betrayed by her own fiancé and stepsister, opened her eyes to a world of ancient trees and imminent death. "My body is not mine." The thought was a disoriented whisper in her mind. Pain was her only anchor to this horrifying new reality. The poison burned through her veins, a fire she instinctively knew how to fight. But her new body was too weak, too broken. Dragging herself through the undergrowth, a primal to survive propelled her forward. It was then she found him. A man lay unconscious near a stream, his black robes stained darker with blood. Even near death, his presence was overwhelming, a predator cloaked in regal authority. His face, chiseled and impossibly handsome, was pale, his lips tinged with the same dark poison she felt coursing through her own system. A quick, professional assessment told her everything. Multiple stab wounds, severe blood loss, and a lethal, fast-acting neurotoxin. He had hours. At best, she had minutes. A strange, desperate clarity seized her. Saving him was saving herself. With trembling hands, she tore strips from her ruined dress, her mind racing through a mental catalogue of herbal remedies. She found wild snakeroot and bloodstop grass nearby, crushing them with a rock. Forcing the bitter pulp between his lips was a struggle, his jaw clenched even in unconsciousness. "Don't you die on me," she gritted out, her voice a raucous. "We're both going to live." She cleaned his wounds with stream water, her movements practiced despite the agony radiating from her own. As she worked, a glimmer of green caught her eye. A jade pendant, intricately carved into a dragon, hung from his neck. It was warm to the touch, pulsing with a faint, inexplicable energy. Acting on an impulse she didn't understand, she broke the exquisite piece in half. She tapped one piece into her sleeve, payment, a marker, a promise that this night, this debt, would not be forgotten. The night became a feverish blur of survival, of Topo's souls clinging to life in the wilderness. When she awoke, he was gone, but she was not alone. And as she cradled a new, profound secret within her transformed body, Nain Wei made a vow. The shame, the pain, the betrayal, she would repay it all, 1,000 times over. 6 years later, the desolate side courtyard of the general's mansion was a world away from the capital's glittering society. This was Nain Wei's gilded cage, a place General Shao had banished his nominal wife to be forgotten. But it had also become her fortress. Mummy, the new branch of Serene Cosmetics in the south, sold out of the pearl cream within an hour. A small voice reported with solemn importance. 5-year-old Doba, her eldest, held a ledger with the gravity of a seasoned minister. The new menu at Heavenly Taste Pavilion has also boosted profits by 30%. Abao, his twin, added, pointing to a corresponding line item. Their chef still can't replicate your braised pork recipe. Sam Bao, her only daughter, adjusted the medicinal herbs drying on a rack. Your patients at Benevolence Hall are calling your divine doctor, Mummy. They say you can snatch souls back from the king of the underworld. Nain Wei watched them, a soft smile gracing her lips. Her 5 children, a result of that desperate, fevered night, were her reason for everything. They were unnervingly intelligent, a constant, beautiful reminder of the mysterious man with the dragon pendant. For 6 years, she had been a ghost, the disgraced wife of General Shao. But in the shadows, she had become Dr. Nan, a medical genius and a business magnate whose influence was quietly spreading across the empire. Good work, my treasures, she said, her voice warm. But remember, our most important rule: lay low and get rich. The 5 children chorused, their faces bright with mischief and adoration. Her quiet life was interrupted by the sharp, condescending voice of a servant from the main house. Monsieur, the woman sneered, intentionally using the most dismissive form of address. The General and Lady Rua are to be wed in 3 days. Lady Rua has graciously sent you an invitation, requesting your presence at the main hall to offer your congratulations. The servant, a stooge of her stepsister's, held out a lavishly embossed red invitation. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons to her own public execution, the final nail in the coffin of her dignity. Rule wanted to see her break, to parade her victory in front of the pathetic, forgotten wife. Nain Wei's children instantly bristled, their small bodies tensing with protective fury. Jabba stepped forward, his little face a mask of cold fury. My mother is unwell. She will not be attending. But Nain Wei gently placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent signal to stand down. She looked at the servant, her gaze calm and unnervingly clear. 6 years of ridicule had forged her heart into something unbreakable. 6 years of planning had sharpened her mind into a weapon. They thought she was a withered flower, left to rot in obscurity. They had no idea she had cultivated a garden of thorns. She took the invitation, her fingers tracing the golden calligraphy. A slow, cryptic smile touched her lips. A smile that held no warmth, only the chilling promise of a coming storm. Please inform Lady Rua, Nain Wei said, her voice smooth as silk but laced with steel, that I would be delighted to attend. The grand hall of the general's estate was a sea of crimson silk and shimmering gold, a monument to ostentatious celebration. Guests, draped in their finest brocades, murmured pleasantries and sipped fine wine, their laughter echoing off gilded dragon carvings. At the head of the hall, General Shao stood beside his bride, Rua, a vision in layers of red and pearl. He, the celebrated war hero; she, the delicate beauty who had captured his heart. The air was thick with the scent of incense and ambition, a perfect stage for the sealing of a powerful alliance. They were moments from exchanging their vows, the triumphant final note in a symphony of deceit. Then, the great doors at the far end of the hall swung open. A sudden hush fell, a silence so profound it seemed to swallow the music and laughter whole. Framed in the doorway was a lone woman, a silhouette against the fading afternoon light. She moved with a liquid grace that commanded every eye, each step a deliberate, unhurried beat in the sudden stillness. As she stepped into the lantern light, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. This was not the Nain Wei they remembered. The bloated, timid figure of ridicule, the shame of the general's household, was gone. In her place stood a woman of breathtaking beauty, her form slender and posed in a simple, but exquisitely tailored gown of deep emerald green. Her hair, once a matted mess, was a cascade of polished ink, and her face, once puffy and unremarkable, was now a sculpture carved from ice and wool. But it was her eyes that held them captive, dark, clear, and burning with an intensity that promised retribution. She radiated an aura of power that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Nain Wei, someone whispered, the name a relic of a forgotten scandal. It was her. It was General Shao's official wife. The one sanctioned by imperial decree. The one he had exiled and left for dead. General Shao's face, moments before a mask of smug satisfaction, had frozen into a portrait of disbelief. His knuckles were white where he gripped the ceremonial wine cup. Who was this woman? This couldn't be the pathetic creature he banished. The woman whose existence was an inconvenient stain on his reputation. This creature before him was a goddess of vengeance, and her gaze was locked on him, a physical force that pinned him in place. Beside him, Rua's delicate smile curdled into a venomous sneer. Jealousy, hot and sharp, flared in her chest. This was her day, her victory. "Sister," she called out, her voice dripping with saccharine condescension, a desperate attempt to reclaim the narrative. "What a surprise! I didn't think you'd have the face to show yourself at our wedding. Have you come to offer your congratulations?" Nain's lips curved into a smile that held no warmth. "I'm here not as your sister, Rua," she said, her voice calm as a frozen lake, yet carrying to every corner of the silent hall. "I'm here as General Shao's one true wife." She took another step forward, her focus shifting entirely to the man at the altar. A man who conspired with his lover to poison his wife, then banished her to a desolate wasteland to die. "You celebrate a union today, General. Let us call it what it is. A celebration built on a foundation of deceit and attempted murder." The room erupted in frantic whispers. The accusation, so boldly stated, was more shocking than her appearance. General Shao finally found his voice, his shock transmuting into rage. "Nonsense. You are hysterical. Guards, remove this woman. She has clearly lost her mind." But Nain did not flinch. She simply held his gaze. "Have I? Or have you simply grown so comfortable with your lies that you've forgotten the truth?" Her voice rose, ringing with righteous fury. "I, Nain Wei, am not here to offer congratulations. I am here to sever our ties." She paused, letting the weight of her next words settle over the stunned assembly. "I am here to announce my intention to divorce you, General Shao." A bond could not have had a more explosive effect. A woman divorcing her husband. It was unprecedented. A scandal of the highest order. It was a direct assault on a man's honor, his authority, his very identity. From a raised platform at the side of the hall, seated in the seat of highest honor, a man watched the proceedings with unnerving stillness. The regent prince, a man whose power was second only to the emperor, had been an unexpected guest. His handsome face was an impassive mask, but his eyes, dark and fathomless, missed nothing. He observed Nain Wei not just with interest, but with a flicker of dawning recognition. It wasn't her face he remembered, but her spirit. That fire, he thought, a phantom memory of a desperate, blood-soaked encounter years ago stirring in his mind. "I've seen that fire before." He noted her strategy, her composure, the calculated precision of her attack. This was no madwoman. This was a master strategist. "Divorce me." General Shao laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. "You dare. You are my wife. You have no right, no power. Your life and death are mine to command. I will have you thrown in the dungeons for this public humiliation." He gestured furiously for his guards, who now began to advance on her. Nain ignored them. Her back remained ramrod straight, her resolve unwavering. She turned her head slowly, her gaze sweeping past the cowering guests, past the enraged general, until it landed squarely on the silent, observing regent prince. In that moment, she staked everything on her final, desperate gambit. "Your Highness." Her voice rang out, clear and powerful, cutting through the chaos. The guards froze in their tracks. All eyes turned to the regent. Ancient law dictates that a wife, if she endures unbearable suffering and betrayal, may petition the crown for an annulment. The path requires she endure the 3 tortures to prove her sincerity. She took a deep breath, her voice dropping but losing none of its intensity. She was no longer just speaking to the room. She was issuing a direct challenge to the highest authority present. I, Nain Wei, invoke this right. I petition you, Regent Prince, to bear witness. I will endure the whipping, the branding, and the water trial. I will endure any pain to earn my freedom from this man. The air in the wedding arena was thick with anticipation, a predatory silence blanketing the crowd. All eyes were on the Regent Prince, whose obsidian gaze remained fixed on Nain Wei. A slow, almost imperceptible smile touched the corner of his lips. He was intrigued, not just by her defiance, but I phantom memory a scent of medicinal herbs on a moonless night. A pair of determined eyes in the dark. Very well. The Regent Prince's voice was a low baritone that cut through the tension, carrying an authority that brooked no argument. This prince will bear witness. Let the trials commence. General Shell's face tightened, a flicker of unease warring with his contempt. Rua, however, beamed with vicious delight. This was more than she could have hoped for. The first trial was brought forward. A wide wooden frame filled with hundreds of wickedly sharp, upturned iron nails, glinting like a bed of metallic thorns under the banquet lights. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. This was not a test. It was a sentence of mutilation. Nain Wei, however, approached it with the serene calm of a scholar approaching a text. Her mind was a fortress. She had spent the last 5 years perfecting her medical knowledge, blending ancient techniques with principles from her past life. The salve she discreetly applied to her body hours ago, a potent combination of numbing agents and a coagulant that formed a micro-thin, resilient barrier over her skin, was a masterpiece of her own invention. Ignoring the horrified whispers, she lay down at the edge of the frame. With a deep, centering breath, she began to roll, her movements fluid and deliberate. The crowd expected screams, the sight of torn flesh and gushing blood. Instead, they saw only a woman in a tattered wedding gown moving with an unearthly grace across a field of daggers. Her face was a mask of placid concentration, betraying no hint of pain. When she stood up on the other side, her gown was punctured in 100 places, but her skin beneath was utterly unharmed. Silence, then. A wave of stunned murmurs. Before the shock could settle, the second trial was presented. A 10-foot-long trough of glowing, red-hot coals. The heat radiated outwards, causing those in the front rows to recoil. Rua's smirk faltered. This was impossible. Nain Wei simply untied the ruined slippers from her feet. She stepped onto the fiery path, her bare soles meeting the searing embers. People flinched, expecting the sizzle of burning flesh, but there was no sound except the soft crackle of the coals. She walked with a steady, unhurried gait, her gaze fixed forward, as if strolling through a garden of winter roses. The protective layer on her feet, a fire retardant bomb mixed with insulating minerals, held firm. She reached, her feet dusty with ash but otherwise perfect. The crowd's murmurs now bordered on awe. Was this woman a demon, or a goddess? General Shell stared, his jaw slack. Rua's face had drained of all color. Their carefully constructed trap was becoming a stage for Nain Wei's apotheosis. For the final trial, a servant brought a heavy cauldron of oil, bubbling furiously over a flame. The heat was a palpable, shimmering force. A single copper coin was dropped in, sinking instantly. "Retrieve the coin," the official announced, his voice trembling slightly. Nain Wei didn't hesitate. She approached the cauldron, her expression unchanged. Her right hand, the one she had submerged in a near-freezing solution earlier to constrict her blood vessels and then coated in layers of an insulative herbal paste, was her secret weapon. She plunged her hand and forearm deep into the boiling liquid. A woman in the crowd fainted. Rua let out a choked cry of disbelief. A moment later, Nainwei withdrew her arm. The boiling oil dripped from her skin, which remained as smooth and pale as jade. Clutched between her fingers was the copper coin. She held it up for all to see. The arena erupted. The whispers were no longer of scorn, but of divine favor. A miracle. Someone cried, "She is protected by the heavens." The regent prince rose slowly, his dark eyes burning with an intensity that saw through the spectacle to the signs he couldn't comprehend but respected. He held up a hand, silencing the crowd. "The trials are complete. The verdict is clear." He gestured to a scribe, who hastily presented a scroll. "By the authority vested in me, I declared the marriage between General Shao and Nainwei null and void. She is a free woman." He handed the divorce decree to Nainwei. It was a tangible weight, the official end of her suffering. Ruo, snapping from her stupor, shrieked, "She can't just leave. She is a disgraced woman of the general's household. Strip her of those clothes. She will leave with nothing. Not even the dirt on her feet." Guards started to move, but before they took a single step, Nainwei acted. She spun around, her eyes flashing with a cold fire that Ruo had never seen. The same hand that had defied boiling oil, her tough hand swung in a vicious arc, connecting with Ruo's cheek. The crack of the slap echoed through the now silent courtyard. "I will no longer be bullied." Nainwei's voice was low and lethal. "Touch me again, and you will find out what this hand is truly capable of." Ruo stumbled back, clutching her face, utterly stunned. The guards froze, their eyes darting to the regent prince. He gave a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of his head, and they melted back into the shadows. His protection was silent but absolute. Later, as Nainwei stood alone in the mansion's desolate courtyard, preparing to walk out into her new life, the regent prince appeared beside her. The boisterous banquet felt a world away. "That was a remarkable performance, monsieur," he said, his tone private and probing. He rarely used her old, familiar name. "It was not a performance, Your Highness. It was a necessity." He studied her profile in the moonlight. 5 years ago, a woman saved my life in the Northern Ridge. She was a physician of impossible skill. She left behind this." He opened his hand, revealing a jade pendant carved into a perfect half-moon. It was the exact counterpart to the one hanging around her own neck, hidden beneath her collar. Nainwei's heart hammered against her ribs, his gaze intensifying, pinning her in place. "I have been searching for her ever since." He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Earlier today, I met a little girl in the city. Her name is Duo. Her eyes, they are a perfect mirror of yours. And yet," he paused, letting the weight of his words settle, "there is something of me in her gaze. Tell me, Dr. Nan, whose child is she?" The air in the regent prince's main hall was as heavy and ornate as the gilded screens partitioning the space. Polished redwood gleamed under the light of a dozen lanterns, the faint scent of aged sandalwood failing to mask the suffocating tension. The regent prince sat enthroned, his handsome face a mask of implacable resolve. His dark, penetrating gaze was fixed on Nainwei, pinning her in place. "We will proceed with a blood affinity test," he stated, his voice calm but leaving no room for negotiation. "It is the only way to put this matter to rest." A servant approached with a porcelain bowl filled with pristine water, a silver needle resting beside it. Nainwei's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The secret she had guarded for 5 years was about to be forcibly unveiled. "Your Highness, this is wholly unnecessary," she argued, her voice tight with desperation. Duo is my daughter. That is all that matters." The regent prince's lips thinned into a severe line. "It matters to me." Before Nainwei could protest further, a small hand slipped into hers. Duo looked up, a large, intelligent eyes mirroring the prince's own. "It's okay, mommy," she chirped, her voice a beacon of innocence in a stifling room. She turned her bright gaze to the regent prince, offering a dazzling smile. "Handsome father won't hurt me. A little poke is nothing for a brave girl like me." The term handsome father landed like a perfectly aimed stone, sending ripples through the prince's composure. The hard edges of his expression softened almost imperceptibly. He nodded slowly, a flicker of something unreadable pride, amusement, in his eyes. With a regal air that belied her tiny stature, Duo presented her finger to the royal physician. A tiny prick, a squeeze, and a single, perfect crimson pearl dropped into the clear water. The regent prince watched, his jaw tight, before mirroring the action without a flinch. His own drop of blood fell, darker and heavier, sinking to meet his daughter's. The entire hall held its breath. The two scarlet drops swirled, spiraling toward each other like fated dancers before colliding. They didn't dilute. They didn't disperse. They fused, melting into one another to form a single, unified ruby stain that pulsed gently in the water. A collective gasp echoed from the attendants. They merged. His most trusted guard, Feng, whispered in stunned disbelief. "Your Highness, it's a perfect fusion." The proof was absolute, undeniable. This child, this brilliant spark of life, was his. The regent prince's mind, a fortress of logic and control, fractured. A maelstrom of emotions fury at Nain Wei's deception, fierce, possessive pride, and an overwhelming, unfamiliar wave of paternal affection warred within him. This was the chaos Nain Wei had been waiting for. In the split second of collective shock, her survival instincts took over. The others, her mind screamed. Da Bao, A Bao, San Bao, Si Bao. He can't find out about them. Not yet. Not like this. She couldn't lose her autonomy, the freedom she had bled for. Giving Duo a reassuring squeeze that felt like a betrayal, she whispered, "Mummy will be right back." Then she was gone. Using the stunned attendants as a screen, she melted back through the corridors she had entered, her steps silent and swift. She didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. By the time the regent prince tore his eyes from the bowl and the face of his daughter, she had vanished. A roar of pure frustration erupted from his chest. "Find her," he commanded, his voice shaking with a potent mix of rage and something akin to desperation. "Deploy every guard, search every alley. I want Nain Wei found. Bring my daughter's mother back to me." Days later, the sterile opulence of the regent's mansion was a world away. In a bustling city district, a new establishment had become the talk of the town. The Hall of Rejuvenation. The pharmacy was clean and bright, smelling of freshly ground herbs and simmering decoctions. Here, Nain Wei was not the disgraced ex-wife of a second-rate official. She was Dr. Nun, a healer of uncanny skill. That evening, in the private courtyard behind the pharmacy, 4 identical little boys sat around a stone table, their faces serious. Handsome father has Duo. Da Bao, the eldest and most stoic, stated, laying out a ghost stone with a decisive click. Ah Bao, the strategist, pushed a sweet bun across the table. "He won't hurt her. We saw his face. He likes her. But a family has to be together. We need a plan to retrieve our sister and to make him accept Mummy on her terms," added San Bao, the charmer, with a grin that was a miniature copy of his father's. Si Bao, the quietist, simply nodded, his eyes filled with unwavering loyalty. Nain Wei watched them from the doorway, her heart a painful mix of pride and sorrow. They were her world, her reason for fighting. She stepped into the courtyard, her presence immediately commanding their attention. "Our family will be whole again," she promised, her voice laced with steel. "But first, we build our fortress." Her strategy was simple and ruthless. The Hall of Rejuvenation would cater to the city's elite. The corrupt officials and wealthy merchants who had once looked down on her would now pay exorbitant sums for her miraculous cures. Their gold would fund her true mission. A clinic in the back, hidden from public view, where the city's poor, the laborers, the orphans, the forgotten received care for free. Her reputation spread like wildfire. She was a divine doctor, a living saint to the common folk and an indispensable asset to the powerful. Satisfaction bloomed in her chest, rich and profound. This was power. This was independence. This was a life built with her own hands on her own terms. We won't just survive, she told her sons, her eyes blazing with conviction. We will live a high life, one they can only dream of. Back in his mansion, the regent prince reviewed the latest report from his spies. A new doctor had appeared, a woman of unparalleled medical genius known only as Dr. Non. She had single-handedly cured the Grand Chancellor's chronic ailment and was now the most sought-after physician in the capital. Her business methods were unorthodox, her skills legendary. The report included a sketch, hastily drawn but unmistakable. He traced the elegant line of the woman's jaw, the determined set of her eyes. A slow, dangerous smile touched his lips. It was a confirmation, not a revelation. Name Wei, Dr. Non, the mother of his child. The hunt was over. The game, however, had just begun.